Hello everybody. Tonight I'm going to be talking about the United States Police Force. Right now, law enforcement personnel around the country are hitting the pause button on incorporating the new body-worn video cameras into their everyday care. So a little background on this new technology. Body-worn video cameras just came out 2014. They started testing them. They're about the size of a radio. They're used on their vests, and they record every instance that they have dealing with the public. So my main claim is that requiring that officers are equipped with personal body cameras will put a strain on our police force. My two claims that I'm going to be backing this up with are that body cameras for the police force will waste valuable resources, and that police with body cameras will cause more confrontations with the public. So first off, equipping officers with body cameras will waste valuable resources because the cameras would require expensive equipment and training in order to be operable. And as a known fact, law enforcement budgets are already underfunded as it is, and we don't have enough officers or equipment that we really need in our cities. And according to the Police Executive Research Forum, or PERF, they said that the cost of implementing body-worn cameras included not only the cost of the cameras, but also ancillary equipment such as tablets that let officers tag the data in the field, data storage, management, training, administration, and disclosure. And not a lot of smaller departments will be able to afford this. I mean, bigger cities like New York or Chicago, yeah, that would be worthwhile, but not a lot of departments have the kind of money and resources in order to put into that equipment. So for them, the costs outweigh the benefits, not only for the departments, but also for different lawsuits and how they coincide. For example, in Florida, the Sarasota Police Department has temporarily halted its body camera program after an anti-American Civil Liberties Union of Florida lawyer sued over the cost of obtaining footage. The city said it would charge $18,000 for 84 hours of video to be placed on DVDs. That is about $214 for an hour of video. My second point is the police with body cameras will cause more confrontations with the public. Implementing these cameras will threaten the privacy of the public, especially if there is no public disclosure agreement put into place. The main concerns are how the footage from body-worn cameras might be stored and used. Will a person be able to obtain a video that was recorded inside a neighbor's home? Will agencies keep videos indefinitely? Is it possible that the body-worn camera footage might be improperly posted online? According to a New York Times article, the police force heads are wary about making such footage public because they fear that the state's public records law would require them to turn over the film. And police-public interactions that would need to be recorded are mostly vulnerable people acting out. So that's not really situations that people will want others to be seeing and to be posted online. The police chief, Strachan from Bremerton, Washington, was quoted to say, "Our view is we don't want to be part of violating people's privacy for commercial or voyeuristic reasons. Everyone's worst day is now going to put on YouTube for eternity." And this also may prevent people from coming forward as credible witnesses to help assist with investigations due to fear of retaliation or fear of public exposure. Lastly, citizens will have less respect for police officers if we implement these body-worn cameras. The 2.5-year study conducted by the DC Police Unit recorded that out of 2,224 officers, 337 complaints were filed against officers wearing cameras, and 280 were filed against those not wearing cameras. In this instance, Sergeant Matthew Mall, chairman of the DC Police Labor Union, said he expected a bigger impact from the cameras. He was quoted saying, "I honestly thought that complaints would have come down. We were spending all this money to realize that everything is the same. Maybe that's a good thing that we've been doing things right from the beginning." So all this just to say that requiring the officers are equipped with personal body cameras will put a significant strain on our police force. Not only will it waste valuable law enforcement resources, they will also cause more police public confrontations. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Does the public right to know outweigh the significant trauma that shows shooting videos on the nightly news has for those affected? Thank you.
All right, well, the definition of the body cameras and the controversy, I think, is explained pretty well at the beginning of the speech. Your position is clearly stated, so the proposition is clear. There's a preview of the supporting points. There are only 2 supporting points, so it shouldn't be too complicated to follow. The first point is about wasting resources. Now, there's a presupposition here about law enforcement being underfunded, and that is an assumption without any particular evidence that demonstrates it. I think that probably is going to require some information, especially when your argument is that smaller departments are going to have these kinds of problems. So if the average cost turns out to be, I don't know, several $100s, and you have for each officer to be equipped this way, and a department, like you said, a small department has a dozen police officers in it, it's still several $100s. That's upwards of $100,000 for a small department, and their budget already is limited. Then I think your argument can be demonstrated. But outside of that, I don't really get any information about that. This is all very hypothetical on the cost issue. And that's your first point, and I think that you need better information on it. I do see that there are likely to be a variety of costs. One of the costs that you mentioned would also be the costs related to lawsuits, fighting lawsuits about disclosing video footage, or whether or not the video footage violated somebody's rights, and the police department's being forced to engage in lawsuits in relationship to that. That, I think, is another potential significance argument on waste of resources. But I don't have anything other than a hypothetical on these points, and so I think that's a little bit problematic. The second issue concerning potential problems creating confrontations with the public or more difficulty, that seems to be the notion that there could be a whole series of bad things that would occur if this footage is, I don't want to say leaked, but made public, for instance. And you do have a good piece of information that in New York they're concerned about this because they have public records laws that allow this information to be, lawsuits can be filed to make the information public. And potentially that means every time there's a confrontation with a police officer, every time there's an interaction with a police officer, no matter where it occurs, that video footage is going to be made available online. And I do think that there is an interesting argument here about the privacy of potential witnesses, for instance, issues concerning, like you described at one point at the end of the speech, everybody's worst day being put on permanent display on YouTube. That, I think, is a potential drawback on this issue. The third argument that I think you're missing, that you kind of get to at the end, is an argument that suggests that the body cameras are going to fail to solve any particular problem. And that's where this information that talks about the number of complaints comes into play. I think that's really a third argument that needs to be developed, suggesting that the body cameras aren't going to make a difference either on complaints against police brutality or in solving crimes. And as a consequence, that is the thing that sort of makes it a waste. At the end, you kind of do raise a value issue, which is probably not germane to our issue of fact here, whether the right to know outweighs the right of privacy of victims. I really think that that's a value conflict. I like there's some good testimony in the presentation. I thought that you cited your sources pretty effectively. Like I said, I do think that the cost issue is a little bit abstract, and you're dependent on hypothetical examples to demonstrate a couple of points. All right, thank you.